I remember being a sophomore, maybe a freshman in high school, and my friends and I were talking before class one day, and we were talking about death. And one of the girls in this group said, it would be so difficult for me to lose my mom specifically. And I said, if my mom ever died, I would just turn to drugs and give up. And I was, 13 or 14 probably. And it seemed like something that could never, ever happen, ever. And less than 2 years later, that's exactly what happened. And it was so shocking. And I don't care, for me, I don't care how much notice you have, it still feels unexpected. It still feels surprising. And so being 16 and losing your parent, and I'll say this, losing your favorite parent, losing your confidant, losing your partner, losing your therapist, losing for me, my mother was all of those things. It felt like my life had ended. And I didn't know, especially at 16, I didn't know what to do or what life could look like, because to me it had ended. Life had ended. It didn't change, it didn't get worse, it ceased to exist. And I just remember feeling almost, I don't even want to say hopeless, because it was more than hopeless. I felt like this is it. It's all done. And it wasn't all done. And I did move through it. And I didn't turn to drugs. And my life didn't end, and it wasn't over. And it is so powerful to feel one way and then get through that feeling and feel a different way. Meaning, it is so powerful to feel like the world has ended, but then you get through that and you realize it hasn't ended. When you have that realization, for me, it makes me feel powerful. It doesn't mean I'm not sad. It doesn't mean I'm not hurt. But to experience the feeling of my world has ended, and to no, my world has not ended. It has changed drastically, but it is far from ended. That's a powerful feeling. And you don't get there overnight. And you certainly, for me, did not start there. But that is eventually where I ended up. My process of grief has not been linear, and it's also spanned, at this point, 2 decades. I have buried a lot of my grief as a means of coping with the loss over the years. And in certain instances, burying that grief has caused me more internal discomfort than benefit. And if I could go back and grieve over again, I would grieve unapologetically, I would grieve hard, and I would grieve in my support system. But I didn't grieve like that. And I don't blame myself either for not grieving like that. 1, you do the best you can. And 2, I was 16. So I give myself a lot of grace. But that's not how I grieved. How I grieved was buried it down, told everybody I was okay, tried to get over it as quickly as possible, and not think about it. even today, I don't have one picture hanging in my house, and I don't have one picture on my phone of my mother, because the memory, the visual of her elicits sadness to me, because it is a representation of what we no longer have. And perhaps I could work on changing that association, but for me, that's what I've done the last few decades, and I don't anticipate that part changing. But what has changed is my ability and my allowance to actually reflect on my mother and her passing, even years later. And when those feelings come up, if it's Mother's Day, if it's the anniversary of her death, if I meet somebody else whose parent has died, whatever triggers that memory, instead of burying it down now, which I know has had negative impacts in the past, I try to sit with it. And I'll even talk about it. And sitting with it and talking about it, and I'm reminded of a phrase that Dr. Lamb, a psychiatrist who has appeared on MedCircle many times, Dr. Lamb has said is, can we get curious about why you're feeling this way? Can we get curious about why you're thinking this way? Whatever it is, your feelings, your thoughts, your behaviors, whatever they are, instead of judging them or burying them, which I'm really good at doing, can I get curious about them? And curiosity takes that soft approach to these really powerful emotions. And I'm pretty good at that now. I can say I'm pretty good at that. And when those feelings come up, good or bad, I embrace them. I feel them all. And that experiencing of those emotions has helped me therapeutically a ton. So when people talk about the process of grief, it's really an individual process. There's no steps, there's no linear process. It's an individual process. And my process of grief, it will be lifelong. I will grieve the rest of my life. But I grieve in a way that feels good, that's healthy, that brings me more joy and inspiration. I think when we hear the word they're grieving, we picture someone locked in a dark room crying. And yeah, that is also part of grieving. But for me too, grieving is having a few friends over and sharing a memory. That is also part of the grieving process. And now when I say I'm grieving, what I mostly mean is that I'm remembering, I'm feeling, and I'm acknowledging what has happened and where I'm at. And I'm so thankful I can do that because it's so peaceful. My mother was in the hospital, and I had just gotten out of my last final exam in high school before Christmas break. And my father called me and said, she's died. Your mom's died. And I said, okay. And at this point, we knew it was coming. I had been with her the night prior, and we pretty much knew we had hours left. So less than 24 hours later, she died. And my dad asked me, do you want to see her one more time? And I said, no. I couldn't even imagine wanting to see my mother anything other than alive. And I said no. And that was a moment that really has stuck with me. The moment you really find out that your parent has died is a big moment. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know if I should be crying, if I should be screaming, if I should do anything. And I hung up the phone, and my friend came over, and she goes, what was that? And I go, that was my dad. My mom's died. And they're like, my friend's going, oh my gosh, I can't believe that. I go, yeah. And it seemed surreal. that moment actually didn't even seem like it was happening. It just seemed surreal. Um, it was a confusing time more than anything. It was just filled with confusion. It was very nice to feel the support. And the next time I go through loss, I'm going to really leverage the support that I felt when I was 16. People are willing to help. People are willing to listen. People are willing to drop off casseroles. People are willing to sit with you. Take advantage of it. I don't know if I did as much. I was 16, so I didn't know. But I think now I would. I think now as an adult, I have one parent left. If things go, quote, how they should, I will outlive my parents. And that means I got another parent I have to lose. And when that happens, unlike when my mother died, I'm going to lean into my support system rather than lean away from it. And I wish more people would do that. Because that is the time to lean on your support system. You're going through loss, you're going through grief. This is the time to lean on your support system. So lean in. Things did get easier. Of course, things got easier. Could you imagine if things never got easier? They were just, you get this terrible, I don't mean to laugh, y'all, but sometimes you just gotta laugh. You get this terrible event, this terrible news, this terrible loss. It has to get better. Because it can't stay like this forever. It has to get better. Doesn't mean it's going to be as good as before. Doesn't mean it'll be the same as before. Doesn't mean it won't take a while for it to get better. But it has to get better. It has to. I still believe time is the great healer. Time is the great healer, and we can't speed up time. But we can move through it as gracefully as possible. I've had also so many other wonderful relationships get born out of this loss. I've had so many mother figures in my life because of this loss. And when I start to look at those benefits and start to see those support networks that I probably wouldn't have, it helps me go, okay, this is my new normal, and it's not what I wanted. But considering what happened, the reality of the situation, this is a very nice gift. And so, if you have your community and you have time, I think you have two incredible pieces of support to get you through this. The people around you and the time it takes to heal. You've got support. You can do it. Shortly after my mother died, I felt guilty doing anything. If I was watching TV, I felt guilty. If I had any enjoyment in my life, I felt guilty. I felt like I shouldn't be happy anymore. So if I have moments of happiness, guilt. And again, I give myself a lot of grace because I was 16, and I don't think I'd behave the same way today, but maybe I would. Maybe I still would feel guilty about all that. But you know what, y'all? I don't think I would. I don't think I'd feel guilty. I think I would go, good job, Kyle. You deserve a little happiness because you're going through a lot of not happy stuff. So a little TV makes you happy? Great. A little wine night with friends make you happy? Great. Find those moments of happiness. And when that voice comes into your head and goes, oh, look at you. So-and-so just died, but you're out at a dinner party and you laughed at a joke? When that voice comes up, I just say, yeah, I did. Got any other questions for me, voice? Because I get to do it. I get to do this. I get to do it however I want. And if part of my grief is laughing, then I get to laugh. Let me laugh. I do my best to not judge my behavior, especially when I can see where it's coming from. Especially if I can see where it's coming from. And when I had those moments of a laugh or a group with friends, I could even back then go, okay, this is part of the healing. And I look at those as, oh, it's a little bit of healing. It's not guilt. It's a microscopic blip on my healing journey, but I'll take it, because a lot of little blips turn into one big blop, and a whole bunch of blops turn into your new normal, peace, hopefulness. It turns into a lot of things. So when you have that peace in the middle of the storm, don't judge yourself for having it. Embrace yourself for being brave enough to have it. I think in a lot of ways, going through this loss has made me a better person. And it doesn't justify the loss, of course. And it doesn't make the loss okay, of course. But because I lost the most important person in my life at such a young age, and because I've done the work to move through that loss, on the other side of that, I feel very able to provide support for my friends and family who go through loss, to provide empathy to anybody who's going through something, even a stranger, and to relate better to people on a humanistic level. I have some friends, and maybe you do too, where they haven't really had any major loss in their life. They got all their family, they got all their friends, no one's got a disease, no one's had to have major surgery, no one's died, no one's whatever. It's just kind of going good for them. Great. But the loss is inevitable. And part of me goes, you are not prepared for the loss. For me, I'm prepared for the loss. I've been through it. Doesn't mean the losses are easy, okay? It just means you have a little prep. And so when I look at my life now, I look at my life as I am a warrior. I went through it. I lost my mom when I was 16 years old. I was diagnosed with Crohn's disease when I was 18 years old. I was diagnosed with depression when I was 9 years old. Okay? I've gone through some stuff, and I'm on the other side, and I'm a warrior because of it. And that is how I view it. I can do it. I end all my videos with, remember, whatever you're going through, you got this. But I'm saying that to myself as much as I'm saying it to you. Because I believe it. Because I've been through it, and I got it. And I'm going through it right now, and I do got this. And I think the proof is that you're here. That is the proof. You might be here in tears. You might be here and thinking, yeah, but I feel terrible. You might be here and thinking this is never going to get better, but you are here. You're surviving in this moment. You are surviving. The proof being that you are here. And I hope as we continue to grieve, continue to acknowledge our own thoughts, feelings, and behaviors, that we can all get to a point where we look at ourselves as warriors. Warriors who sometimes cry, warriors who are sometimes sad, warriors who sometimes don't want to get out of bed, but still a warrior at the end of the day. You know, eventually I got to a place where I didn't feel like this loss was looming over me. I didn't feel like it had chains on me. I felt like I had a good relationship with the loss. And what that then allowed me to do is practice altruism. It is so amazing, the power of giving back as a form of healing. And I know we should give selflessly, but I also think there might be some power in giving selfishly. Go give, go help, Go be a support for somebody. Go volunteer. Go donate. See how good you feel after. And it can be in the realm of the loss, but it doesn't have to be. It can be anything. It can be something totally opposite of the loss. It can be something that you like. You could have lost a friend, and in their honor or in your healing, you decide to go volunteer at a dog shelter. Has nothing to do with your friend. But when you're there, you're helping, you're giving, you're healing others. Healing others is such a quick way to heal yourself, in my experience. Try it. And if you're not ready for that, that's also okay. Throughout this entire course, I hope there isn't pressure being put on you by anybody, including yourself. What I want is for you to be selfish, kind to yourself, empathic to yourself, and really remind yourself that you do got this. You do.